Welcome to In Mere Company. On today's episode, we talk to fellow Barth mom Nour about her 6-month-old son Adel and their experience with elamipretide. We talk about hospitalization, the process and emotions around receiving a diagnosis, and wonder why everything in medical rounds is quote unquote appropriate. Thank you to Nour and Adel for joining us. Your first child?
Yes,
Oh
he
my
is.
gosh. Okay. Well, then, I need to hear all the details because when we were in the hospital, everyone was like, "Is this your first child?" And I was like, "No." And I cannot imagine if this was because, what the, this is.
Yeah. So with Adele, kind of like the gist of it, like basically in the beginning, like so we're trying to get pregnant for so long. Like he's a IVF baby, so he's our miracle baby.
Wow.
And yeah, so we wanted him, of course. And basically like I want to say within like the first 2 weeks of his life, he just got really sick with like some kind of like nasal congestion. Like he was very like just very snotty and everything. And we took him to the ER just to see like it could be a virus or whatnot. They did, viral panels. Everything came back negative. Like we went twice that week, like on a Wednesday and then on a Friday, I believe. And like the second time they did like blood work, the second time they did like the same viral panel, they did chest x-ray, everything was negative. Um, and then I want to say, yeah, they sent us home again. They said just keep clearing out his nose, just like supportive care, just like clearing out his nose. There's no meds really for like newborns, for like colds and whatnot. I want to say he took for like a trend for the worst around like 5 weeks of age. That's when he was like being lethargic and he wasn't drinking as much and he was just very inconsolable.
Yeah.
And we took him back to his pediatrician and basically as soon as the pediatrician walked in, like he started like his skin started changing colors. Basically, like they called it modeling. When me and dad first heard it, we were like, modeling? He's modeling? Like, like what do you mean? So, but he meant like modeling with an MOTT. So we were like, oh, okay. And basically, like his capillary refill wouldn't like refill on time, so he wasn't getting enough like blood perfusion throughout his body.
Yeah.
We got sent to the ER right away. That's when like everything happened. He went into cardiac arrest. He was put on ECMO and all of that. And we were still like confused, like what happened.
Wow.
And it was very traumatic. And like literally, like imagine like you just gave birth to like a baby, not even like a few weeks old, and like you're just going through all of this and you're like struggling like for the first few weeks of life. You're like, how did he get sick? Like we were so careful. We were so like, careful who comes around him, not to let anybody like touch him if you didn't wash your hands because it's like winter time, virus, flu season, all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like took all the precautions and like something still happened. And then, eventually find out it's Barth syndrome. And that's just like we're like, what? Like there was no history in my family. My mom has like from her, like she has 3 boys and none of them have any like no history of like anything similar to that at all. Like they were born healthy. My sisters all have boys, nobody has it. So we're like wondering, is it from me? So like everybody in my family is like wondering to get tested, like the girls and everything, like my sisters and like nieces that I have to see if they're carriers.
Mhm.
But yeah, so since then, Adele's been home since like I want to say April, like end of April. He's been doing good. I feel like he's like for the most part, like he's reaching most of his milestones. I think he's just more so like delayed with like physical stuff, like just like sitting up on his own and stuff like that. But I feel like he's not too far off, but I feel like I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll,
I
I'll
mean,
take that.
let's just pause here and just acknowledge the fact that okay, so we've been talking for maybe 5 minutes and you just went through this whole story. I was reflecting on this today. I was like, okay, rare disease parents, it is insane how we are able to rattle off this highly traumatic experience just okay, so then they put him on ECMO and you know what I mean? Because you've told the story so many times, but it is it's just crazy how matter of fact we can end up being about sharing this really terrifying and very personal story, but it's just wild. Sometimes I'm just I don't understand, I feel out of my body sometimes when I'm explaining to people
Yeah.
Yeah, that really happened. And I like, look back at pictures, I'm like, this is not even the same baby at this point. Like it's just so wild. Before any of this, like I don't know like what your background is. Like I was, yes, I was in education. So like I have not like my experience going to the doctor was just like, well visits, right? Like I had never been into, we went to the ER like once with my older daughter. That was like my most extreme experience medical wise before. So like this was just like a whole huge learning curve of just like, oh my gosh, like there's like layers and layers and layers and you can just go down the layers and
Yeah,
it's really scary. Um
it is. I
yeah,
agree 100%. I agree 100%.
yeah. All right, what do you do for like work?
So my background is I am a pharmacist or unemployed pharmacist at the moment.
Yeah, great.
Um, and then dad's also a pharmacist. We both met in pharmacy school. So we have like the medical background, but it's funny that you said that like you weren't really like aware of like all these extreme cases of like what could happen with a baby. Because with us, like when we heard he has heart failure, we're like, what? Heart failure in a baby? Like even though we're in the medical field, you don't really hear that. You don't know like, oh my gosh, a baby has a heart like baby has heart failure. Like you're just like that's so like it's mind-boggling for me because it's like I can see that only in adults.
Yes.
But then like they're like, yeah, it happens with babies too. And I was like, wow, that's honestly just like mind blowing for me. Like their medications, like you're just like, man, like I just like look at the medications I'm like that he's on, and I'm like, how is this for a baby? Like, I was like, is this even okay? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, well, with your background, you're probably like, okay, right. So this is what I would, this is what you would treat like an 85-year-old with in heart failure, but
Right,
they're giving this to my 6-month-old. Yeah.
right. And like me and dad were just like, we're pharmacists, but like everything that we learned about pharmacy and like we've done with pharmacy, it just kind of like got chucked out the back of the door as soon as he was in the hospital. Cause you're not thinking like, oh, like this is for this and this is for that. It's just like, is our baby okay? Is
Yeah.
he gonna be okay? That's what we're, and then we're thinking of like what happened, what could have this been? Like we're just like over analyzing everything and just trying to be like very like detailed about like, okay, like what could have been the cause. And then at the end, it was genetics, of course. And it's like all of that what ifs was, no reason to like try to do what ifs or blame somebody or whatever the situation was. It doesn't help. And we learned that the hard way, of course. But yeah.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I felt the exact same way. Like, so when Gilbert was born, initially we were at our like birth hospital and he went to the NICU for low glucose and like not maintaining his body temperature. So we were
Yeah.
there, we were in the NICU for like 3 days, just kind of like trying to stabilize him. They did like a follow-up echo. And so, we were waiting, but the whole time it was like, I just, they were saying things like, well, sometimes like during delivery, like if the baby's like, cut off from oxygen or if there's something like sometimes you can get non-compaction because of the like birth process or because of this. And so then like you're saying, like I was just like, oh my gosh, did I do something wrong? Like
Yeah.
overanalyzing, like was, like like what happened? But I just felt so guilty. And like you're saying, you're just like overanalyzing, what did we do wrong? Like it turns out it's like, well, there wasn't anything
Yeah.
we could have done. This was how he was going to be born because this was in his.
No, yeah, no, literally, we were talking about it with the genetic counselor, like when she first told us, like, I feel like I was so like in shock that I didn't really like process it. And basically like when she was telling me, like, yeah, so he looks like he has Barth syndrome. And then I'm just thinking back to like all the genetic testing we did with like IVF, and I'm just like, how could they have missed this? Like, I asked, would this be on like their typical panel that they would carry, like do like a panel for like genetic testing? She's like, no, not typically, unless like you have a specific variant. And I was like, oh, okay, so this would have been preventable. And then me just thinking, I'm like, my mom has had three boys, and none of my sisters who have boys, like they don't have any of this. Like maybe it's just it's just me. It just showed up in me and only me, or they just didn't have that 50-50, chance of like having a Barth baby. So I always think about that and just like thinking about like all these little things that could have possibly happened since he was born. It's like always in your mind until you have the answer and you're like, okay, this is what that was. So,
Yeah, yeah, totally. And it's I found it like a little bit relieving, but then at the same time, I think there was like I mean, it was hard, like to your point too, of it's like you have this new baby, you're going through all this postpartum stuff, like mental health wise, it was such a trip for me because like we found out, he had Barth syndrome in like 2 weeks after he was born. And then we were able to start elamipretide like when he was like a month old. And then my birthday was at the end of the month. And I was just like, this is the worst birthday ever. And at that point, I was almost like 6 weeks postpartum. And I feel like there's like a shift that happens like at the 6 week mark where like you're done
yeah,
running on adrenaline because and I don't know if there's like research to back this up. This is just like my opinion of like, having had like previous kids, like something in me always shifts at the 6 week mark. Like
yeah,
the lack of sleep, I think catches up to you, the just like how much is going on, how much is changing. And then to like be hospitalized with him, to have found out and know that this was like a genetic thing that like I was a carrier for was like was just awful. I just was like felt so terrible. I was like, this is my fault. Like, and now it's like I've come to terms with that and it's like, no, it's not anyone's fault. This is just it's a mutation. Like, we didn't know, like even if we had done genetic screening. I mean, I consulted with a geneticist before we started doing echoes and they were like, well, whatever your brother had, we don't think is genetically caused. So I didn't do any genetic testing because they didn't even know that the type of heart failure he had was correlated with Barth syndrome. It just
right.
they weren't aware. So it's like it is really hard not to blame yourself. And I think that's something that, is probably doesn't get talked about enough, like with rare diseases and things that are genetic, because it's like a lot, you can't help it. But there are definitely like feelings of guilt and it's hard.
No, yeah, I resonate with that because I think we had like similar timelines, even though we had our babies different times. He went into the hospital when he was 5 weeks old, and we kind of got the results around the 6 week mark for me postpartum. So like at that time, I think I was also going through a whole lot too, like just emotionally, physically, like you're still not recovered fully from like giving birth. And I feel like you truly don't really recover at the 6 week mark like fully. Like you still, of course, need time, more time than that. But it was like, oh my God, it's my fault. It's I caused this to him. Like, like you're just like thinking about all the worst things possible and then just trying to like having that guilt factor build up onto what you're already dealing with is like 1,000 times harder than anybody can imagine. And I don't think anybody can really relate unless like they went through that situation like we have, and I'm sure like other moms too that have dealt with like rare diseases. So I think it's important to have that kind of support with like rare disease, how it affects you at like the timeline of like when it occurred, like situations like these. So I feel like that's kind of interesting that you brought that up because I feel like I never really realized that's something that might be needed, especially in our type of like situation in a community. I feel like it's not really talked about 100%, and it would be helpful to have like that kind of support group.
Yeah, I think when we were hospitalized, we were there until he was like 3 months old. So like from the time he was born, we didn't come home until 3 months. And during that whole time, like I kind of like would like look at the Barth syndrome website like from afar because I was just like I can't like I'm not in the like mental space to like be a part of the community yet because in some ways I feel like there was also a little bit of like denial for me like well if I just don't like I didn't it was like if I just don't like talk about this that much then like we can just go on and like live our lives and whatever
Right.
need to manage this condition. But I do there are resources. I've seen them before after like poking around for moms um
Okay.
of boys with Barth because it is, X-linked. So unless
Yeah.
unless it's de novo within the boy, which it can happen too. But
Yeah.
yeah, there are resources on there, but it's good to like bring up because yeah, it's tough. And I mean, I'm like, well, if everything with elamipretide, if all of this hadn't been happening, like, I don't know, I might have just been one that flew under the radar as well. But, because I think we were just like, we just got out of 3 months in the hospital. We just want to go back to normal life, right? Like, we
Right.
just want to like, live our lives and adjust. But then like once everything happened, I was like, nope, we got to get this medicine. So we got to be
Yeah.
involved. I don't know
That's
if
how
you like felt similarly or not.
I feel like that's 100%. I was like, are we not done fighting yet? Like, I was like, I came to term with like his
Yeah.
situation. He's gonna need medications for who knows how long, maybe the rest of his life. Like, I'm thinking of all the possibilities. I'm thinking about, okay, I have to give him an injection for the rest of his life. And then I find out, oh, hey, this drug might not be approved. And because when we found out the day before Barth Syndrome Awareness Day or something like that.
Oh yeah, like April 4th.
Yeah, we literally found out that he was a carrier or he had Barth syndrome that day. And then going on Google and it's like April 5th is like a Barth syndrome awareness day. I'm like, that's such a coincidence.
Yeah.
And then literally finding out that they're supposed to approve it in April, end of April because it's already April. And I'm like, oh my God, that's such good news. And like also from my perspective, since I'm a pharmacist, I was like, I don't know if I trust this drug. Like, I don't know, are you sure it's beneficial? He's a baby. Like, I don't want to give him something that's not gonna be safe for him.
Yeah.
And I felt like we were told, like, yeah, like based off of like, because his cardiologist at the hospital he was at, apparently she worked with Dr. Vernon Hillary for like 19 years at Hopkins, which was another coincidence. So she knew her. And then when she reached out to her about like she's like, yeah, so my friend's like the lead investigator, Dr. Vernon Hillary, and she's the top medical expert on Barr syndrome. And I know her, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, that's such a coincidence. I'm like, that's amazing news. Like, like it makes you reassured.
Yeah.
And she got to like talking with her about like Adele's case. Like, it made it sound like more promising, like the outcomes and how it would affect his heart function. And I want to say, like, for sure, like with him being on the medication, I'm glad we stuck with it. And like we ended up like actually having him on the medication. I feel like that for sure attributed to his energy and just like his heart function improving and all of that. And I know it takes time. So it's like also him being on around the 6 month mark, I want to say with the medication, it's like we might lose access. It's just he's getting to that point where they say like they show the most benefit with the medication. I'm like, are we gonna lose it really? Like, we've come so far.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I know. To have something that's been so helpful and so like such a lifesaver, and then to like have that threat of like, well, actually, we had this, and maybe you won't get it, but hopefully at the end of September we'll know and we'll get a yes finally. But I
I
know.
know.
Yeah, that's actually, oh my gosh, Nora, this is so funny. Like literally our stories are so similar. They're just like offset by a few months because like for us,
Right.
so like we got his diagnosis January 9th, and the original PDUFA date was the 29th.
Yeah.
And so our cardiologist was like, "Hey, like just was this advisory committee thing in October. I testified at it." Like she's
Oh
like,
my
"There's
gosh.
this drug, elamipretide. I know Dr. Vernon. She runs this clinic." And I do remember her saying, she was like, "And maybe one day you'll go to Baltimore and meet her." And I was like, "What are you talking?" And like I got this like 2 week old, and she's like, "One day you could go to Baltimore." I'm like, "I'm never leaving this hospital. What do you mean one
No,
day
literally.
I'm going to Baltimore? Like we live here." No, but
It
yeah,
feels like
like
that.
yeah, it was like great, like that she knew. I mean, it was like she was like, "Okay, like this baby has Barr syndrome. Like here's how we're gonna approach this." And I do remember her being like, "Yeah, we're really hopeful that it's gonna be approved at the end of the month." And like, yeah, I was like, I remember saying to her, I was like, "And in the off chance that it doesn't, like, is there a way for us to get on this now?" And she was like, "Yes, there's
Yeah.
expanded access." So, like, I'm so glad we did because, yeah, then now here we are. I don't know, like, what literature you got, but she gave us the handout, which I later discovered was like the stuff on the Barr syndrome website.
Yeah.
And like the description of like historically, like most deaths occur before age 3 and everything I read
Yeah.
so scary. But then I remember saying to her, well, like, okay, but this isn't a pre-elamipretide world, right? And she was like, yeah, a lot of babies have done well on it. And then I
Yeah.
just remember with it like not getting approved, I was like, okay, now we are in that world. Like we're in the yes, the pre-elamipretide world, which made it like even scarier. So yeah.
It does. Me and dad were like talking about it like we were at the time when he was in the hospital before he got his diagnosis, we were just like, I was on Chat GPT, which I know I shouldn't have done, but the me wanted answers. I wanted answers so bad. I just wanted to know what it was, and everything was pending. And like literally, I was like, what can cause myocarditis or a viral infection in infants and lead to heart failure? And then it shows me genetics versus viral, and it shows you like the most common like viral bugs that can affect like it cause heart failure in infants. And then the genetics, and one of them was Barth syndrome. And me and dad read it, and I googled it, and it was not like promising whatsoever. It says they don't live past 40. So me and dad are thinking like, oh my gosh, hopefully it's not that. Like, and then what did it end up being? It ended up being that. And like we were thinking like, okay, maybe this is based off of like old data and like old information, and hopefully this isn't not the current state. And then when I found like the whole Bart Center Foundation and learning there's like older guys that have it that are affected by it, it was like kind of like promising, because the first thing I was thinking is like, what kind of life is he gonna have? Like, trying to come to terms with his condition. Like, how is he gonna have like a full life? Is he gonna, suffer from this? Is he gonna, even though everybody's different in their own way with Barr syndrome, it's just like you kind of want some kind of like answer as for your child, like what's their life gonna look like? That's like the most important thing. Like you're worried about their quality of life at the end of the day.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I did the same thing. Our cardiologist, like, so we did his newborn screening tested for, there's something like called 3-MPA or something, and it's like
Okay,
an indicator that there's some kind of metabolic thing going on, I guess. So it's not,
really?
yeah, so like there isn't a newborn screening for Barth syndrome yet, because my understanding is you have to have a treatment for things to be included on the newborn screening panel.
Okay.
So there isn't one that like would indicate that, but she said like this particular thing indicates that there's something going on. And she was like, so then we'll get the genetic panel back, and that will either confirm that he does have Barth syndrome or that he might have a different type of metabolic or I don't know if she said mitochondrial. She definitely said metabolic. So I
What
don't know
about?
what to say, but I don't
Yeah, I
think
think
they
they
are,
told us that
or
too.
are they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think they told us that too. It was like something maybe metabolic or
Yeah,
congenital or something.
yeah. So she was like, that came back abnormal, and I just remember thinking like, well. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's the other thing. Like maybe it's not Barth syndrome.
Right.
And then no, it was.
No, it is. Like you thought it wasn't, but it is.
Yeah, no, spoiler alert. Well, and then like the other thing too, like I know I'm like smiling and laughing, but I've said this to other moms. I'm like, I laugh and smile about a lot of this stuff, but it's like really heavy. And one of the other moms was like, yeah, because if we didn't, we would cry all the time.
No, true.
Be crying always. But in that time as a parent, right, who doesn't, you don't know any of this stuff that's going on. You're just like, what is going on with my baby? And the
Right.
only thought, like in my mind, was, is he gonna make it? Like that's
Yeah.
all you're thinking about. So you're not, but then from the medical perspective, there's all kinds of like nuance and stuff that they're looking at and trying to tease out.
Yeah, like from me and dad's perspective, like my husband's more clinical because he works in a hospital, but of course we have no like experience with pediatrics, so it's like different. So we're looking at his labs every day when they upload them, and we're looking at him like, oh my gosh, his pro-BNP is this much, oh my gosh, this is elevated, and like we're like freaking out internally, and we're trying to process it. But it's like from their perspective, they're like, oh no, it's fine, it's trending down, and it's trending in the right direction, and hopefully with this medication it's gonna like trend this, like and they kept saying the word appropriate, like everything is looking appropriate. And
And,
we're just,
yeah.
we hated that word.
Oh my gosh. My favorite was like, in the context of blah blah blah, or in the setting of da da da, or what else? From a cardio my or from a cardio
Myopathy perspective.
perspective, from a neurology standpoint. Like, oh my gosh, I actually really like doing rounds. I thought they were like really interesting.
They're
But
interesting, yeah.
there's like always like a format to how people like present things and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's trending downward. Yes.
Oh my God. It was it was very interesting just to deal with the terminology of it all. Me and Dad were just like, oh my gosh, everything's appropriate to them. Like what he's like he's feeding appropriately or he's like tolerating the medication appropriately. And we're just like, what is like why? Like why are you saying that? Like just say is this good or bad?
Yeah, or I know I love like Q whatever, or like when they would like say like certain medications are like Q like 3 hours or Q 3 hours or Q
Yeah.
12 hours. Or like there's all this medical stuff you figure out that's like
It's
I'm gonna turn my
fun.
camera off because he might want to eat, but we can keep talking.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so okay, so tell me about like yeah, I want to know about the elamipretide situation. So you said like what how old was he when he was able to get on it? And then like what do you feel like like what did you notice about like how he progressed with it?
So if he got on it around like I want to say like the 6 or 7 week old mark, I want to say like maybe closer to 7 weeks. So like it's kind of like tough to like establish like what his baseline was just because he's a baby. It's
Yeah,
like you don't really know like how he would act as like a typical like child. But like for me, like I felt like with his heart function, it just like substantially got better
yeah,
like out of nowhere. And I think like that, like with the echoes being done once a day, like that helped so much to like kind of get a better picture of how he was progressing with the medication. And I want to say it was in part by like elamipretide. I feel like it's helped for sure with his heart function, even like him being able to not need an NG tube because we were like, we were like really worried that he might need to go home with an NG tube. That last few days we were inpatient, like in the med surg unit, he was being like given his like feeds through a tube after like taking everything by mouth, taking as much as he could by mouth first, and then the rest be in the tube. And me and Dad were like, well, he's oh, so we had a whole issue with that, by the way. With Barth syndrome, they're snackers. They don't really traditionally follow the typical baby behavior.
hmm
So we were told he needs to eat only every 3 hours, X amount of volume, and he can't have it sooner than that or later than that. And I was like, well, he is very inconsolable and he's such a good baby for the most part, unless he wants a diaper change or being fed or whatnot.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
he just typical baby needs. And like he's not a fussy baby. Even his cardiologist is like, yeah, he's not a fussy baby. So she was like saying, like, what's going on here? Why is he so inconsolable when as soon as you guys left the ICU? And I was like, I don't know. And it just seemed like he was screaming for something, like he wanted food or something. So I told him, like, he's hungry. Just give him another bottle. They're like, yeah, but he's not allowed to right now. He's not due for it. So I could not stand it with the staff and everything. So I called up his cardiologist. I'm like, hey, can we try doing PO? Because I talked to Rose and she was at CHOP at the time.
yeah,
And we connected briefly at that period of time. We were both in the hospital, both had similar timelines. I'm like, how's your son doing like with feeds? And she's like, oh, he's like chugging like a champ. He's doing great. And the mitochondrial team over there said, yeah, they're like snackers. So like they don't typically feed like a regular baby. So I told that exact thing to his cardiologist. Cardiologist called the on-call doctor that was on staff for the night for at the hospital. They were able to change his order to like PO as like he can eat as whatever he needs to eat
uh-huh.
instead of like on a typical schedule. So I feel like that me advocating for that, like that was the first time I had to truly like advocate for him. And like that was so hard because I'm not the type to like speak up. Like I'm a very shy person. So like this whole thing is very like out of my comfort zone, but I'm coming to like terms of like I need to use my voice for the greater good of like not just Adele's life, but like other babies' lives because it's gonna affect future babies in X amount of time from now,
Yeah.
and it's not going to go away. It's going to stay. It's just going to be repeated cycles.
Mhm.
So I was happy I got that resolved, and I feel like that elamipretide has helped for sure with his feeding. He's been like stronger about it, even though he was on ECMO and he has heart failure. Like he's slowly but surely, like over time, I've noticed he's been just like wanting to take more in, and he's not feeding like slower amounts or like nibbling here and there. So I feel like that's like the echoes and like the feeding has been like the number one thing for me.
Yes, yeah, I would totally agree about that. I think for us, like the feeding was a huge difference because before he started elamipretide, like we had like such a journey with him and his gut as well. Like um he started to develop like pneumatosis because of like the perfusion. So like when we were in the NICU, he like threw up some like blood or something. But at the time when we like brought it to the attention of the nurses, they were like, they had like the staff look at it, they're like, that's probably like from, from being in utero. He's probably still like getting stuff out from birth because at that point he was only like 3 days old. Um,
Yeah.
but then so like once we were airlifted over to children's, he was, they stabilized him for after like 24 hours, and then they were like, he's doing actually pretty well, and we could start him on some oral heart failure meds and like transfer him to the progressive unit. But like the one night we were in the progressive unit, he threw up blood again. And so then that's when we knew like, okay, that actually was blood when we were back at the NICU in the other hospital. And so then they did x-rays and stuff, and they're like, nope, yeah, he's developing pneumatosis. So he was NPO actually for like he couldn't eat for the first 7 days after that, and like um was on antibiotics and all of that, and like had to get his central line put in to like get all the nutrition. And so then once he finally was able to eat, like it was so painfully slow. Like he had no energy. He would like it was like suck 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 swallow, and then he would fall asleep after like maybe 5 minutes. We'd have to sit him up and like burp him. It would take literally like 30 minutes for him to drink 30 mils. So like a milliliter a minute. It was so painful to watch and it's so sad. And like
Yeah.
they put an NG tube in. I remember them being like, okay, we're going to give him a couple days to see if he can increase his speeds on his own. And if he doesn't, we need to do an NG tube. And
Yeah.
so we got that in. And then he started elamipretide like maybe 3 or 4 days after he got that. And he got that NG tube out within a month.
Oh my
He
gosh.
got elamipretide. And then a month after that, we went home. And then I transitioned him to breastfeeding like fully, like probably, let's see, another like 15 or so days after we got home. And then he's just been breastfeeding, which is like
It's amazing.
insane because I mean, I didn't think that was going to be possible. It was like, well, everyone was like, well, yeah, breastfeeding takes a lot of energy. Like,
Yeah.
so I was preparing like, okay, like, maybe that's just not our journey. Like, that's just not what we're going to do. And that's fine. But I mean, I really feel like elamipretide had a huge impact on that because before that, I mean, yeah, it was like he was tiny. He was like the 0.2 percentile for weight. And now he's like hugging like the 40th percentile line, which is just nuts. Yeah.
It's so amazing. That's literally this, like I feel like that's so similar with the both of us. Like the timelines with like their feedings, like they just got so strong, like from where they started to where they ended up.
Yeah.
Like it made a big difference. Like even when he was first born, I just kind of noticed he wouldn't do well with certain bottle flows or
Yeah.
nipples. And I was struggling for the hardest time to figure out what type of nipple to give him. Until this day, he will only take like a wide neck nipple. And I
Mhm.
tried to mimic like a breast nipple and like I tried the even flow nipple and like I want to say right now he's using the Lancino nipple and he just loves that wide base.
Yeah.
That's what he stick to. I can't give him any other type of bottle.
That's so funny. They're so particular.
And I'm just like, and he would, so older, another thing too is he wouldn't latch. So I was pumping like the whole time when he was also like inpatient
Yes. Oh my God,
and
Nour, why are we the same person? Okay, wait.
before too.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So tell me more about the pumping.
Okay, so before anything ever even happened, like when he was born, and I feel like at the hospital where I gave birth, they didn't really have like like a good lactation consultant that was available, and I was trying to get him to latch, but he wouldn't latch.
Yeah.
And yeah, so essentially, like I went home with the intention of like wanting to breastfeed or like at least pump or something. And like it was all new for me. So like for the most part, I honestly just like pumped everything and it was like a struggle. I hated pumping, honestly, it was the worst. It was the whole sterilization and then like you gotta make sure it's not left out for X amount of time and like storing it a certain way, all the gist of breastfeeding. So basically when he was in the hospital, of course, like I had to still pump, but like you're not in your home, you're in a hospital and like you're given a teeny little tiny sink, a little corner for your breast pumping stuff. And you don't maybe particularly like their breastfeeding supplies or pumping supplies. So I would bring mine from home. And then like once a day, me or dad would like go home and like sterilize the pumps, come back and like, change all that and do all that stuff. And it was a lot. Honestly, like I was pumping for the most part, but then like I would notice I would diminish in numbers like every couple of days. Like I just had gotten my pumping supply like to a number I would like felt comfortable with. And then he went into the hospital, got admitted, everything happened. And then it was just like, yeah, it was like, okay, so now I gotta go back to ground zero. And I was pumping and just like filling them in their little bottles and they would put them in the freezer and all that stuff. And then it's closer when it got to like, I want to say the end of April before he's about to get discharged. I was just so disinterested in it because it was just so like mentally exhausting. Like I was like, I can't, like, I'm already like thinking about like going home with all his meds and he needs to get an injection once a day and all his meds are like throughout the day. I feel like I'm gonna be taking care of like a patient, like I'm gonna be a nurse, like at this point, a nurse but also a mother. And I'm just like I was like dreading it, like just having to pump because that's on its own is the hardest thing anybody can ever do, I feel like, as a woman.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a full-time job.
It is. And I always like I don't ever want to talk negatively about it because it is a hard job, but it's so like I don't like when people like shame anybody for not breastfeeding or pumping if they can't because like I went through it and it's like they don't understand like what it entails fully, like the whole process. Like if you're not like just breastfeeding on its own, you're pumping. And if you're pumping, you have to clean, you have to sterilize it, you have to do one, two, and three. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a lot for sure.
It's such a
So,
situation.
and especially with like I don't know if Gilbert's like the same way, but Adele's like on a 24 kcal like diet. So because of like the whole heart failure situation, he needs to be on like a more caloric dense feed. So like we would have to pump and then you have to mix it with a scoop of formula or what. And then like I'm like, okay, so I have to pump regardless. So then I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I literally just like stopped as soon as we got home and I was like, I can't. So we just switched to formula.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've been just like way happy.
Yeah. Well, you have to do like what is going to be best for like mental health wise too, because like your to your point of saying like, okay, now I'm going to go home. I have to deal with like this med schedule, and now I'm a nurse. Like, it's a
Yeah.
whole other dimension of parenting that like is not normal. Like it's not something you were planning for or expecting or anticipating in any way. So it's like, yeah, it's so tough. And I mean, I think like especially with our boys, like hearing everybody's different stories and like talking to more moms in the community and parents and stuff, like feeding is so hard. With like it's just I mean, because it takes energy. Like, and if this is a mitochondrial disorder, and so like it's gonna require, you know, eating requires energy, and so that's hard. And like yeah, I like when you were talking about the whole like every 3 hours and this and that, like it was the same thing for us too. Like he would get so upset and be
Yeah.
screaming and screaming. And I was like, I think he's hungry. But it was like, well,
Yeah.
no, like the orders are for every 3 hours. I was like, can we just like do every 2.5? Or like, can we do,
Yeah,
I was like, can we please just like, and so eventually they let us do that, which was great. But it is hard because it's like I get it. Like there's a lot of babies on the floor. There's a lot of, nurses and stuff are juggling a lot of different patients. And so like the 3 hour schedule is there for a reason, because they have to be able to like get to everybody. But I was like, we're here all the time. Like I will just, and finally one nurse was so great. She just was like, I'm going to get you a bottle warmer and just put it in your room. And so we just finally were able to like do feeds whenever we were ready whenever he was ready for it. We didn't have to wait for someone to like warm the bottle and all this stuff. And
yeah. That's how I felt too. Like I felt like we were in prison. Like we were being limited when we could feed our son. And I'm like, if he's hungry, I'm gonna feed him. Like, you know what? You know how I found out he was hungry? He was just screaming, and it was like 1 in the morning. By the way, he would be fine like the whole morning, and then like around like 7 or 7 p.m., he would just take a turn for the worse where he would like scream, "He's so fussy." He wasn't like consolable, and like even the nurses were like scared. They're like, "Oh my gosh, why is he screaming?" Like he was like the screaming baby on the floor.
Yeah.
And we are like, he's not a fussy baby. He doesn't cry like this. I was telling them that. And this is how I found out he was hungry. I lay him on like the bed of like where he would sleep, and I got his nipple without anything, no bottle. And I gave it to him, and he got so happy when I gave him the bottle and he started sucking. And I was like, he's hungry. Like I yelled, I'm like, he's hungry. Like I was like, can I speak to somebody right now? Like I was like, who do I have to talk to? Like I literally had to like tell the nurse like who do I have to talk to? Because they were like, oh, I don't know, like let me go talk to the cardiologist, let me go page them. I'm like, no, like go up to them directly because I'm like done. Like this has been 5 days of this and he's been dealing with like being hungry. And
Yeah.
like I had to just basically like fight for him. I just went over their necks and I just literally like contacted his cardiologist who's in a different unit. She's in the ICU. And I told her 1, 2, and 3, like the story with Rose, and then like she put in the orders, fixed it. And I think they were like a little like um I think they were like a little like scared because they were like, oh my gosh, she talked to like the big boss, like, she's making us look bad, And I was like, no, like I just really wanted to get and like to resolve the situation because he's usually like not a fussy baby.
Yeah. No, oh my gosh, I like feel that so deeply because that like, overall I would say like I have a very like I love our children's hospital. I love our cardiologists. Like they took really good care of us, but you're right, like there were times where it was like I just felt frustrated by like, okay, but I feel like this is like as a parent, as like, there's this like balance with like when you're in the hospital and then you're working with like staff and you're working with different nurses and different shifts and like yeah, it can be hard, but you have to like advocate for what you need and like have to feel comfortable with like talking, like speaking up. And then yeah, I feel like my husband would laugh. He'd be like, are we like super high maintenance? And everyone was like, oh my God, there they oh, who do you have? Oh, do you have Gilbert this shift? Oh geez. Because we were like just so yeah, but you have to be because it's like it's your child and like you're gonna fight for and here we are. We're like still fighting at home for all our medicine.
I think.
Is he awake?
No, and is he awake right now? Is Sag awake?
Yeah.
Is he bring me in? Yeah. Yeah, she's gonna bring me up. My niece is watching him right now.
Oh, that's
I was
fun.
like, I was like, can you just like watch him while he's sleeping? If he wakes up, let me know. She just
Yeah,
brought
oh
me
my gosh.
water.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, so then you guys were how long were you in the hospital with him?
So we were in the hospital for like, I want to say like just about a month, actually. Yeah, just about a month.
Wow. That's not very long. That's really good. And like really impressive. I mean, the fact, like I remember our cardiologist telling us, like there have been some babies who have like had to, be on Berlin Hearts or who have been on ECMO. And like now I'm like, now that I'm in the community, I'm like, oh, I know who that was. But like, I remember her saying that, and I was like, wow, there's just like so many different, like this drug is really impactful. Oh no!
Let me lower this.
Oh my
He has a helmet on.
God, Bubbles!
Trying
He's
to figure out how
beyond
to.
adorable. You are so
Can you
cute.
see his face?
Yes. Hi. You're so cute. Yes, you are. Yeah. Look
Say
at you.
hi.
Hi, Bubs. I'm like, Gilbert, Gilbert passed out.
Oh my God, they took turns. They're like one's clocking in, one's clocking out.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, he is so adorable. I cannot get over it.
Oh my gosh.
They're all so cute.
They're so
Oh,
cute. They are. They're the cutest
yeah.
babies.
But yeah, I mean, like, I just think the fact that he was on ECMO and then now, like, and then a month of hospitalization, you guys are home is just like absolutely incredible. Like, oh, that's
Yeah, on like even his cardiologist was shocked. Like she was like, he's going home after a month of and he was on ECMO for only like 8 days. And like usually I guess some babies just take longer, like weeks.
Mhm.
And she was just like so shocked that that happened. Like she was like, can we put him in the journal? And I'm like, sure, yeah, like whatever helps, like whatever can, tell others like show others like, if they have a similar story or like situation, if this is gonna help for the greater good, why not? Like I'm all for it.
Yeah.
And like Novi's, I guess she was just really shocked because I don't know, she's been a cardiologist for so long. I guess she probably doesn't come across this situation too often with like, ECMO and like being discharged within a month.
Hmm.
Just happened so fast. But yeah, like I was like, I think I have like a lot to play. Like I feel like elamipretide had a lot to play with that, like part to play with that. It changed, I think, things for us fast and quickly,
Hmm.
which is, promising. So it's like, why are they trying to take away,
Oh
They
my
don't
God,
want
I
to
know.
prove it.
I know. Well, that's why I'm like, I think it's good that like, I don't know about you, but well, I mean, I said this earlier that like I really wanted to kind of just fly under the radar and just like go live our lives, but like, um, but then, I felt like once we got it started, like advocating and like being more public and stuff about Gilbert, I was like, you know what, this is good though, because like we need the FDA to see like these babies and understand that like our kids were not represented in the clinical trials because they weren't alive and like they weren't old
Yeah,
enough to be in those trials. But like you can't take away something that like look at how compelling the evidence is that it's effective and that it's working. Like you cannot just take babies off of medication who are doing so insanely well on it. And like yeah, so I'm hopeful that like we've gotten our messaging across and that the right decision is going to be made in September and we're not going to have any more delays and that we can have a broad label because, I think this is a real game changer in terms of like what it looks like to have Barth syndrome because
yeah,
up until this point it's like it's management of symptoms and it's kind of like you're dealt the hand and the variant that you have and kind of just see where things go and so to have our boys have such like critical heart failure and then to come back so well is like wild.
I know. It's like it's a miracle, honestly. Like to be in the situation that we're in and like there is treatment available and it's just like the timing of it all. It's like if it was meant to happen to anybody, I feel like it was meant to happen with us in terms of like advocacy and just like not staying quiet. Like we just, I don't know, like for me, like this is not in my realm of comfort at all. But when it comes to, like your baby, that's a whole different situation. And if there's people out there that if they were to deal with it, like I always think about it, I'm like, if this was like my sister's situation or if this was my brother's situation, like I don't think they would know how to navigate this. And I don't know if it's just like they like I don't know if they would just understand how to deal with it or whatever it is. I'm like, everything happens for a reason, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, everything happens for a reason and we were put in this situation for a reason and hopefully we're part of that reason to get it approved
Yeah.
for like babies just like, Gilbert and Adele,
Yeah.
you know, and
That's
like
what I'm
all the
hopeful
other.
too. And I keep saying, like in interviews and stuff, I'm like, look, like Gilbert is one of many babies. Like he's not the only one who's like this. It's just we're willing to speak out about it. And like, so, think about that. Like, you're
Right.
not the only one. There are quite a few of us, and like not everyone, is comfortable or in a position where they can like take the time to talk about it. Like I am at home now, like staying at home with the kids. So I'm like, well, this is my full-time job now, so I should be doing something to speak of. But yeah, yeah.
Right.
To wrap it up, what do you feel like has been, I mean, we talked a lot about like what has been hard about this, which there's a lot. But
Yeah.
like what do you feel like has been something that's been really positive or like a change for the better because of everything that you've gone through?
I feel like a positive thing is just like people realizing how important it is to speak up, I think, in terms of like just advocacy for the little man, the little guy. Like, we advocate for like things that are like humanitarian crises and like stuff like that's going on in the news and political things. And like that's of course amazing. But I feel like people don't I don't know if people know that it's is that as important to do as well with like rare diseases. Like I had no clue about like rare disease week and like
Oh yeah.
just like what's available with like rare diseases, like in terms of like just advocating for them. advocating for us. I feel like it's so important, and I feel like people should speak up more if they can,
Yeah.
even if they're shy too. It doesn't hurt. It's like you might regret it one day. Like, what if I didn't? And that's why I always say, like, what if I didn't do this? What if I didn't say this?
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
feel like it's important.
Yes, that is such a good, that's such a good like reflection. It is. It's like advocacy, you know, when it becomes more personal like this, it is like really incredible. Like the people you meet and like you said, like the rare disease community. I'm just like, this is all I'm doing for the rest of my life is going to be like advocating for the next, treatment for everything. Like everybody who goes through this, like we need to have treatments, we need to find cures. Like um, yeah, it's awesome. And the people you meet, like
Oh yeah.
I'm just like, man, the people I have met in the past 2 months are just been like the most incredible people. Like everyone is just, it's been so great to like connect with all sorts of different families and different, I've gotten to know quite a few like other rare moms on Instagram because like my algorithm is just like exclusively rare disease now. So I like
Same.
I've just learned about a lot of rare diseases. But but yeah, like, and people are so good, like people have like backed our family in ways that like, it's been really awesome to see people come together and like support Gilbert. And I'm sure you've seen the same thing in your community with Adele. Like people will go to bat for you and they're like, let me figure out who I know, who's a friend of a friend of a friend that I can like connect you with because like people really are like care. Yeah, it's
It's
awesome.
nice, honestly. It's amazing to see like people. It kind of also shows like people's like true colors, like people
Yeah.
who actually do care to like help you or support you in any way that they can. And like it shows like who actually is in your corner at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, when you go through a different chapter in your life, like people will be like, oh, I'm like, I noticed so and so is acting like this with me now. It's like, it just shows you their true colors,
Yeah.
which is very, it's like nice way to kind of see who you have as a true support in your life.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, with that, I think that's a good place to end because Adele's like, oh, I'm done with this Zoom call.
All
Like,
right, like I'm done. You're done.
yeah, you're done. Oh
I
my
just
gosh.
joined.
You're
You
beyond
just
cute.
you
Yes.
just joined.
Yeah, I know. We will be in the same, school year.
Right.
We go to kindergarten the same year.
Look, that's your friend.
I know. He's like, oh, I'm passed out. Oh,
Oh, now you're
are you
tired. That's
tired now?
why.
Gosh, he's just too precious. Okay, okay. Last question. Does Adele have like a special name meaning?
It means the just one or like the one that's like right. I guess the one that's just and like will say the right thing. Essentially, it's he's named after his grandpa.
Yes, but that is so fitting. That is so fitting. Like righteous, yeah? Like kind of like
Yeah,
that.
like righteous. Yeah, essentially like righteous is the
Yes.
person that will bring justice. You're
Oh
gonna
my
bring
gosh.
justice.
Adele, your name is perfect. Yes, it is. You're so cute. Okay, we'll stop talking now. Oh my gosh. Well, it was so fun to get to talk to you, Nour.
It was nice to meet you too and talk to you too.
Yes. All right, we'll let these babies go. All right, bye. Bye,
Say bye.
Adele. Bye.
Like I'm done.
Yeah. All right, bye.
Bye.